Hi there, my name is Sally Morris and I run the On the Spot Training School. I work with a colleague, Craig Foden, and we teach myofascial release CPD courses. At the moment, we're not working face-to-face with students or clients, and therefore I felt it would be quite useful to provide you with some self-care techniques for the jaw. There are very few people I know who are not affected by this pandemic right now. So if you're one of those who's finding that you're experiencing tension in the jaw, particularly at night, maybe clenching your teeth, grinding, then this technique is going to be very useful for you. All these techniques, there's two. Please feel free to share them with us. So in order to really help you in terms of where your hands need to be positioned on your own jaw, on your own skull, because we're not just going to do the jaw, I want to just orientate you a little bit using this skull and also using my own face to give you an idea of where to place your fingers. Where we are. So if you take your fingers under the cheekbone and you take your fingers back, keep following that line. And you'll find it gets perhaps a little bit, you can feel the tight muscles in there. That would be your masseter muscles here, chewing muscles. And if you clench your jaw, you'll feel those come into play there. So bring your fingers back, then it comes into kind of a V here, I suppose. If you open and shut your jaw, you'll feel that there's a part that moves, and this is the mandible. So these are the two parts of the jaw here, upper and lower jaw. And we often get a lot of tension and tenderness and pain in these areas, and you might find that when you open and shut your jaw, it actually clicks, or you might find that it seems to go off to one side. Lots of things going on in there. So we're going to give you some simple techniques that I hope will help you to release the tension in that jaw. So I want to begin by giving you an idea of where your hand is going to be placed and how. So I'll show you first on the skull. Now I'm going to use this nice padded area of my thumb, and that's going to sit very, very comfortably under the jawbone, okay? And then my hands are going to come around my face like this. So if I show you that there, can you see that when I have my hand, my thumb under there like that, it's actually just really easy to soften the jaw onto that. So let me show you that on me. So my thumb is coming under here. So my jaw is just going to really easily sit comfortably in that area. Now, where's the rest of my hand? Well, the thumb is behind the ear, and the index finger is in front of the ear, but really all my fingers are now behind my eye. So as the whole point of that is that it's really comfortable for me now to use my forearms on a table, to have both hands around my face, but the thumbs underneath the jaw. And I won't do this technique yet because I want to sort of explain that to you first. So if your hands are in position, so don't do any of this yet. Let's do it together when we actually do it. If your hands are in position, then it's really easy and comfortable for that mandible to rest on your thumbs. And your fingertips are going to be up on the temple area. That's quite useful too, because one of the other muscles that's involved in this chewing action is the temporalis muscle, which is main bulk of that muscle is up here. So again, if you feel your fingertips into this area here and you begin to clench your jaw, you'll feel that muscle activated there. So when you have your hand in this position and your fingertips are here, what will happen over time, I'm going to need to come down a little bit more, is that you might actually feel that temporalis muscle begin to just sort of bulk out a little bit when you do this. The whole point of this is to create some compression into this joint space here, this temporomandibular joint space here. And you want to be just underneath this bone here, underneath with the heel of your hand, with the heel of your thumb here, so that you're gently, very gently compressing the space. And it will feel, if you do it gently enough and with enough awareness, you'll feel like you come to an end point. Okay, we call that in myofascial release a barrier. Other people would call that a bind spot, a bind place, resistance. Different people have different words for that. We call it the barrier in myofascial release. And we stay, this is John Barnes. John Barnes is my mentor teacher in America. He suggests that we stay with these barriers for at least 3 to 5 minutes, and I would say 5 minutes or more, and so would he. Because although we feel like we've hit an end point, if you like, given time, over that period of time, the tissues can actually change, and it gives the opportunity for a new barrier to be created. So if there's tension in that joint, we're just going to actually stay with that and see and soften and keep waiting until things change. And there are various biomechanical changes that occur in those 5 minutes that actually fundamentally change the tissue itself. So the first technique we're going to do is compression, and then we're going to use a distraction technique. When I do this technique, I'm not going to do it for you for 5 minutes, but you're going to hold it for 5 minutes. So this video will help to show you how to self-care, how to use self-care with your jaw, but you're going to have to do it for a lot longer than I suggest on this video. Hi. So, first of all, I want you to bear in mind all the things I said about getting in position. So at this particular point, what I've got is my thumb, the heel of my hand. And if you feel into that, you'll feel that it's beautifully padded, and then you'll feel the bone underneath that. So we want to place that so it's right under the jaw. And remember that the movement is going to go straight up into the joint space, and your fingers can be just gently cradling around this temple area. And you want both hands to be in position. I'm not going to be able to talk once I start doing this, so I want to sort of talk you through it before I start. You may notice that I've just adjusted my hands. The reason for that is they didn't feel they were quite underneath my jaw. So I had to bring my elbows in a little bit, and I had to get underneath my jaw a little bit more. When I do this, obviously I will stop talking, but you're going to just literally feel in that joint space and feel the space. You don't need to go anywhere to start with. You're just going to sink into the tissues, feel the bone underneath your hand here, and then see if you can imagine into that joint space so that you're imagining that as you're gently sinking in and allowing that compression into the joint, that you feel that that space is getting smaller until you feel that you've found that barrier that we talked about. So I'm going to just stop for a minute so I can do that for myself, and then maybe give you a little bit more instruction. So get into position, make yourself really comfortable. Your hands don't want to be in your throat too much, because that won't be very comfortable. So just literally get into a position where you can feel the edge of that bone. And now I'm going to be quiet and quieten down with you. I'm going to give you a little bit more instruction while you're doing this with me. I'm going to give you some instructions that might help. So I want you to really quieten your mind. It might be helpful to you to close your eyes, quieten your mind, and get really focused on what's happening, not only under your hands, but also in your actual jaw space. You may well find that one side seems much looser, easier to move than the other, and the other is really stuck. That sometimes happens. Whatever's going on in there for you, just notice it. Use that kind of quiet curiosity, just noticing without judgment what's happening in your jaw here. And we're going to keep going with that for 5 minutes or more. So really settle yourself in and just notice what you notice. Does your jaw feel level? Does it feel like one side's already stuck, one side's really open? Does it feel like you've already reached that barrier? Take your time, sink in, and you're kind of just, as you sink in, you're just allowing your head to sink down rather than pushing it down. You don't need to push, because gravity will do it for you. So keep in that position and allow your head to sink into your hands. I've certainly got more movement on one side than the other. And while you're doing this, just see if you can open your awareness a little more to the rest of your body, to the rest of your head maybe, or just beyond your hands. And see if you can notice what else is going on in your body. And notice if you are aware of tensions elsewhere in your body, and see if you can just soften those. It's quite amazing with this fascial work how often it triggers something else, or you notice something else, because that tension is actually relating to something else in your body. It might be your neck, might be your back. I'm certainly becoming more aware. I'm not even doing it with you fully, but I'm more aware of a kind of tension across the frontal bone here. So keep going. I'm going to keep talking you through this, because I want to stay with you while you do this, so that you really get the full experience. So if you found that the sinking in takes 1 to 2 minutes, and then then you find your barrier, and then you stay on that barrier. You don't force. There's no forcing. Don't ever need to force the tissue, and that's why myofascial release is very safe for you, because you're never trying to do that. So keep going, keep softening. See where else you can soften. Do you think you could soften in your hands maybe a little more? Are your hands rigid? Just see if you don't want to take your hands off. I've done that a couple of times because I'm talking to you. You really don't want to take your hands off. Keep your hands on, because it's the sustained pressure over time that makes all the difference. You might notice that your hands, the area that you're working has become very hot. You might notice other sensations in that area as well. So like I say, just with that sort of curiosity, kind curiosity, just listening into your body, listening to what it's saying to you. You don't often have time to stop. So keep going. And when you do this in your own time, please do it for longer than we've spent doing this. Really give yourself that permission to soften. The words we often use in myofascial release are soften, like butter melting, or like toffee stretching. That's how it feels when we're in the tissue. And it's also really helpful to imagine that three-dimensional web throughout your whole body. Because wherever your hands are, you're in connection with the rest of your body. Keep going, keep softening, keep noticing. Well, I hope you enjoyed that part of the technique, that compression into the joint space here. So by now your joint space should be really compressed. That's what we've done there. And like that stuck drawer, we now want to be able to open that and allow that to glide out. This means you're going to change your hand position. Now, where we want our hands now is so that the main flat of your hand, I would say, but you might find that you want to adjust that. What's going to happen now, let me just show you with me, is that you're going to have your hands on, and now you want to be, it's almost like you latch on a bit like a limpet really, because you're going to soften into the tissues first, and really soften into those tissues until you get that kind of bony hold and suction onto the jaw. And then this time your head is going to move up as you keep your hands where they are, so that's going to stretch you up. You're going to be on the mandible now, so you want your hand to be on the mandible, hands, as you bring your head away. And what's going to happen, and the teeth might fall out here, but you're going to gently distract that joint. Distract means that you're moving those two bones away from one another. So you're stretching into this joint here. Now the other thing that the jaw has the capacity to do is not only to open, but also to come forwards. So it protracts. So it opens, so the jaw space here, the joint opens, and also you can bring your jaw forward. So when we do this technique, we're going to stay on the technique here. But what you'll find is towards the end of the technique, you might find that your jaw begins to move forwards as well as down. And we're going to go with that for a full release of the jaw. Again, please, please, please spend 5 minutes or more on this technique. So let's just start. I'm going to start you off so that you're working with me. And then I will probably leave you to complete this yourself. So first off is not about pulling. I'm not going to start with pulling. I actually wanted to just feel how that was. I actually am going to literally sink in. That's all I'm going to do. So I've moved my hands down. My thumbs, the heels of my thumbs are no longer on that jaw bone. I've actually allowed my hands to come down from there. I'm using, so if I take my fingers away, you can see I'm using that part of my hand to really sink in. So sink in with me. So shut your eyes. Don't try and pull away or do anything yet apart from just sinking in. And just imagine your hands are just in soft mud or soft clay right now, just sinking down. And even at this stage, I can feel more in my right jaw than in my left. You might be the opposite. Take your time sinking in. And then this time, as you allow your hands to kind of, it's almost like dragging your lower jaw down. As you're doing that, you can just use your head to come up, so that you're you're stretching your head away from your hands here. Once you're stuck, another thing I haven't mentioned yet is not to put any moisturizer on your hands, not to put anything on your face. It's best to have skin free of any moisturizers, makeup, anything like that, because then you'll find that the skin to skin contact really does connect in a very, very profound way. Shut your eyes, feel in, see where you can soften. So if you find yourself like it's already hit that barrier and it doesn't feel like it's moving anymore, and allow yourself to soften in your whole body. So I've just noticed that my back is tight, so I'm just going to release there. And don't be worried if you feel like your head is moving, your neck is moving, you feel like you're going into a different position. If your body is taking you in those places, then just go with that. Your body knows best what it needs. So my head has kind of gone off to, it's turning a little bit to the left. And of course, you're not going to be talking through this technique. You're going to be really still. You're going to feel in, you're going to notice with that kind of kind curiosity, allowing your whole body to soften, imagining those tissues just releasing, opening, melting. Don't be in any hurry with this. Be really patient with yourself. Give yourself the gift of time. And the gift of presence, actually. It's actually about being really present with yourself. So unusual to do that these days. So precious. My head is straightening up. As I said to you before, You may notice as time goes on that I'm going to exaggerate the movement now, but the movement not only comes down but also forwards. And at some point, really useful to assist with that. And allow yourself to notice deep into your skull, neck, wherever you're feeling those tugs. It's very subtle. If you notice you're at a barrier, stay at the barrier. Don't try and force the tissue. Stay at the barrier and allow that barrier to melt, allow it to soften. Keep giving your body that instruction to let go. Give yourself permission to let go. So again, if you were doing this for yourself, really worth spending longer. The longer time you spend, the more impact this will have for you in a positive way. So we have worked with compression and we've worked with distraction. So remember, like that stuck drawer, we've pushed into the drawer just to allow that jaw to release. I hope that's helped. I would suggest that you do that daily. Right now, in this lockdown time, I think we're all, whether we know it or not, quite traumatized by the pandemic and the effect it's had around us, regardless of whether loved ones have been affected or friends or family. It's a difficult time for everyone. Yeah, and it has quite an insidious effect, I think. And this is something that you can share with loved ones, particularly if they're experiencing tension in their jaw. I hope that's been helpful. I will record some more for you. It takes quite a while, but I will try and attempt to do some more for you very soon. So let's just go over what we've just done. We have begun with a compression technique. We've used the thumb area to help to push into this, and of course with our heads coming down, is to help to compress into this jaw space here. The reason for that is the jaw is like a stuck drawer and we need to push it in sometimes before we can actually pull it out. So that begins the process. The second part of that technique is to distract, is to separate in that joint there. So just to relieve the tension in that joint there. And we have done that by distracting, by pulling away and then protracting, bringing the jaw forward for the last part of that technique. I would highly recommend that you do this on a daily basis because right now I don't think anyone is not affected by this pandemic. Regardless of whether any of your loved ones have been affected directly, it's a difficult time for everyone, and I do believe that the jaw is one of those areas that we hold tension. So if you feel that you're holding tension in that way, then please try these myofascial techniques. Feel free to share them with your loved ones. My colleague Craig and I are really hopeful that we'll be able to start teaching again soon and practicing whenever we can, when it's safe to do so. Please get in touch if you feel I can be of any help to you. Beyond this, I will continue to create some videos that might be useful for you. So keep an eye out on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that. You can subscribe to my newsletter by clicking on the link on my website, which is www.sallymorris.co.uk. And I'm on Facebook as Massage on the Spot. And I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Clubhouse, and I'm on... Anyway, just find a way. It doesn't matter whether it's me who's helping you or anyone else. It's just find a way for yourself to help to keep yourself in balance during these difficult times. I wish you well, and I hope that that's helped. Please let me know. It'd be really helpful to have some feedback. It's not ideal circumstances here, but I hope this has worked for you. Bye.